Okay. So we'll start with this. This handout you'll have here, it's a front and back section. This comes out of the policy and procedure manual for OSFM. If you start digging through their website, you'll find that book, 69 pages of their policy. It's a good read. Yeah.
Who else needs one?
So this first one, and some of these bullet points are more or less to keep in the back of your mind. It's nothing you've got to do, but it keeps you on the right path, kind of directed in the direction they want you to go. So this first one just talks about having a safe environment to train. And that's all it is. You shouldn't face this out there. Everything's going to be outside. They bring their own props. You'll do the written test in here, and then you'll go outside to do the practical portion.
So remember that when you are grading the practical skills, that's all you're doing. This is not a teaching or coaching. So practical skills testing is outside of teaching, and we'll go over a little bit more of that in here in a second, outside of the teaching or coaching process. It's very specific on what you can say and what you cannot say while you're evaluating. Everybody know what the process. Let's back up for just a second. So you know you're going to have 3 stations you got to go to after you pass the general knowledge test. One of the stations is going to be, or the first station you're probably going to go to, is grading of a practical. So you'll walk in, you'll have an OSFM guy in front of you. He'll have some sort of practical for you to grade him on. They'll hand you a grading sheet. They'll give you an amount of time to look over the grading sheet and take your time and read everything. He may say, "Are you ready?" If you're not ready, say, "Give me one more second to read over this." And we'll go over some more specifics about the grade section. But don't let him rush you. Make sure that you fully understand and fully read the front and the back of the checkoff sheet. Because this is what you're grading on. These are the things that you're grading on. So then,
We'll hit it again here.
Okay, we'll hit it again. So just know that we're evaluating somebody. We're not coaching or teaching during these practical skills.
We can keep this pretty simple. And once we go through the slides, you'll see really the only thing you can say to them is reading that instructor statement that's on that sheet. Every grade sheet has an instructor statement. So this bullet here kind of gets in now. OSFM's 100% skills testing. Okay? You'll see a bullet here in a second that kind of contradicts itself because it's old, 2015. January of this year, all practicals are 100% skills testing. So it's a little bit different. But this kind of refers more to the fact that teaching is totally different than testing. Okay? That shouldn't affect you much out there. This is the bullet point I was telling you. This is in that sheet from OSFM, and it says each candidate shall be tested on 2 randomly selected practical skills provided by the commission. So that's the way it used to be. When you go outside to do your Q-school, you will have 2 skills that you're tested on. And you'll have 1 skill that you got to grade somebody on. So that's where that came from. That doesn't even happen anymore. Everything's 100% skills tested. When you start going out to do your testing, say you're teaching for Guilford Tech and you're doing ladders, every skill in that ladder section's got to be tested. As far as out here, practical testing is a minimum score of 70%. Okay. And this second bullet point here, you will prepare the candidate on the skill test criteria prior to administering the skills exam. And all that is going to be the statement you got to read. You want to take anything?
Yeah.
Each practical skill sheet. So let's get that out real quick. Grab your ladder one. You got a ladder one there, So, and we'll go over this again at the end, just to walk through one of them. But you'll see each skills test sheet has an instructor statement to read aloud to each student. So, like Chief Vickery was saying, you're going to get there, and there'll be an OSFM guy that you're grading. There'll be one who's grading you, and you're standing there. And the only thing you can say on this lateral instructor statement, while wearing full protective clothing, correctly demonstrate the steps for picking up your ladder from the ground, carrying the ladder. And then you determine the distance. using a low shoulder carry. That's it. That's really all you can say. If he says, I got a question, okay, and you read it again. You don't say anything else but that statement. And Brian picked up on this earlier. Here in a second you'll see if they ask you a question, all you can read is that statement.
But they tell you right here, and this is in the policy, follow the statement with, do you have any questions? All right, go to the next slide. What are we to say if they have a question? If they have a question, you may read the instructor statement again.
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question.
Good, I'm not answering it.
But to keep it simple in your mind, when you're doing this, just read the statement, okay? And like Chief Vicar is saying, don't let them rush you, okay? And we'll get to that here in a second. All right, so this is where it gets kind of a little tricky. So when you go out there, you'll have, well, for your Q-school, you'll leave the written test area, you'll go outside, and you'll have tested students with untested students, okay? And this is important to remember because, let's say Mikey, he does real world stuff. He does a practical, he does ladders, and he fails ladders, okay? You've got to keep him separate from the tested and untested. So really you have three kind of stations. You'll have a group for the tested, a group for the untested, and since Mikey failed ladders, we're going to stick him to the side, and he gets to retest here in a second, okay? So when you're grading a practical, more than likely, they could be good, all good, or you may have to fail a guy. And you're going to have to let him know, hey, you need to stand over here, you can retest here in a little bit, you need to be away from all the tested, untested candidates. That makes sense? And we'll go through one of these. As far as cameras, phones, all that stuff, I hadn't heard of them trying to play that trick or game, but if they do, that's in here. If they've got a phone or recorder or anything like that, they've got to put it away. I don't see them doing that, but that's just, it's in there.
Or after the evaluation, they sit there and say, all right, so I failed. All right, well, I'm going to go back over to the classroom with everybody else. No, sir, you're not. You're going to go step over here, and we'll get to you here shortly to reevaluate.
So and that's all this says here is if he fails, he or she fails, you put him over there, don't let him get with the other people, and then they get a chance to retest. If you look at the ladder, the back side of the ladder, you'll see you get a first attempt and a second attempt. After that, Mikey's got to take ladders all over again. Okay? So it might be like Chief Vicar said, they may say, okay, I'm going to go over here. No, you need to be over here separated from everybody else. And that's really the only two things you can say to them. You can't tell them what they failed. You can't tell them what they did wrong. Even if they ask you, well, what did I do wrong? You can't say any of that. You did not pass. Please stand over there separated from everybody else. That's it. Which is hard to do sometimes because we as firefighters want to help and coach and mentor. You can't do any of that here. Okay? Anything on that, Brian? You good with that? All right. So, any questions about that sheet? That sheet was just a commission sheet. That's their rules and policy. So we're gonna look at this ladder one real quick, okay?
Yes, sir.
When you get in there, you may have ladders. I don't know what you might have, but we'll do this ladder one. It's easy. So they'll give you this sheet. You're standing there, all right? So I'm standing here with Dylan. He's the OSFM guy. Mikey's another OSFM guy. He's grading me, grading him. You'll get this sheet. Take your time to read the sheet. Don't let them rush you. You know, you'll read it. Go through here. You can look at all the scoring. You see F, how it's in bold on your sheet, and it says it here. Critical skills are identified in bold type. If you fail one of those that are in bold, that person fails automatically. Okay? You can stop the testing right there. Now this one is the last one. Now you look at your ropes ones, there's a lot more of those bold ones. So anywhere in there they fail that critical task, they're done. All you can say is, thank you, you did not pass this time, please stand over here away from everybody else. Okay? So take your time in reading that. And then all you can say to them is, while wearing full PPE, that instructor statement, that's all you can say. Okay? Once you read that statement, you can say, do you have any questions? If they say yes, you read the statement again. Okay, that's all you can say. Then you move on to the practical. Okay? I don't know what they may give you. Some of the guys who went through it, they'll give you some ideas here in a little bit. But you'll go through all of that. It may be that you get through all of these and you're adding them up. That person's done and you've got to add it up and you figure out, 70's passing. Okay, Dylan made a 60. All right, sorry, bud. You got to go over there, separate from everybody else. And that's all you can say. Any questions about that? I know it sounds really simple, but that testing part is getting 80% of the people. It's not the skills when you move on to actually do the skills. It's this testing and grading part. Yes, sir.
If we grade somebody, let's say I graded them a 70, but the person who's assessing me graded them as a 60, do we need to be able to justify why we gave what points or not?
Yes. And I haven't heard anybody say that's the case. I don't know if Mikey's actually grading what I'm grading with him. He's more or less grading me. But yeah, I would think so. I mean, just like when you write it down on that sheet and Dylan didn't kneel beside the ladder facing the tip, that's 10 points. Put that and know why you did that. Well, he didn't kneel beside the ladder and face the tips.
Yeah.
So I think that would take care of that. Any questions about that?
So we can tell them whether they pass or fail.
Yes. And I say that because if they don't pass, you got to send them over there. Do I believe, and I've heard some of the people that's gone through it say, when they got done, okay, you're complete, you're finished. They didn't use the word passing, I think that's fine. If they don't pass, you didn't pass, please stand over in the area, separate from everybody else. But that sounds really simple, but it's been getting a lot of people. Let's look just real quick. So you'll grade that. You can write your score down, say it was an 80, he's good, he passed, moves on. If not, he'll get a second attempt. They shouldn't ask you, they shouldn't ask you, but they retest the same day. That's part of the policy. I mean, real world. If you're doing a ladders class, if Ryan's doing a ladder class at Mount Hope, he would sit them to the side and they would test that same day. It may be 45 minutes or maybe an hour, you get to retest it. After that second attempt, they take the whole class over again.
That doesn't apply to us though, at the Q-school.
No, it does not apply to that out there. Okay? Now, for some reason, you fail doing Q-school, they'll tell you. And you're done right there. And we'll get some of the stories here in a bit. This is the ropes knot section. And we're just going to take a quick look at this. Same type of thing. Only thing you can say to that student is, the student shall correctly tie the knots requested by the evaluator and briefly describe their uses. The student will have 30 seconds to correctly tie each knot. Do you have any questions? How fast you do? Well, the student shall correctly, you just do that. It's all you can do. This grade sheet's a lot different from the ladders, and that's why I picked it. It's a little longer. But you can see the ones in bold are automatic failures. Okay? So if Dylan's grading the figure 8 knot on a bike, and he's looking at that knot, and it's wrong, it's not tied correctly, that's a critical failure, they're done. And you say, at this time you have not passed, please stand over there. Well, what did I do wrong? You didn't pass, please stand over there. You do not have to give them an explanation at all. Which seems a little unfair, I know, but that's the way it is. Any questions about that?
You said don't give them an explanation or you don't have to.
Do not give them an explanation. All you can say is you did not pass. And they'll try to, hey, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? You didn't pass, please stand over there. So I just want to show you this. Now you may could get through some of these and it's, it's 5, 5, 5, and they pass, they do this, do that. And then you actually have to grade the sheet and see what they have before you tell them if they didn't pass. But that's that sheet. The second page, same way. Any questions?
Do they want you to stop if they don't do a critical failure, or to continue on at the end?
If they don't do a critical failure, continue to the end. Okay. That's a good question, because I wasn't sure. I called Fitz today, asked him. His understanding as well is as soon as you do that critical failure, it stops. But if they just say, let's say Harper he didn't type in 30 seconds, he loses 2.5 points, keep on moving through there.
But if he did not tie that one knot correctly, you automatically stop there or continue to the rest of the process?
Stop right there.
Okay.
Stop right there. That sounds really simple, doesn't it?
But it's not going to be wrong if you let them complete the whole practical run. Or is it going to be wrong?
Well, if they do a critical failure and
you don't catch it as a grader.
That's right, they'll fail you for that. And it happened last Q-school here with some of our people that didn't, I can't remember which practical it was, it may have been Knox, but they didn't see how it was not tied correctly, so they let that person keep moving through. They got to the end, well, that was a critical failure, you didn't pass Q-school. All right. Any other questions?
If you're grading something like knots, how much time as the grader do you have to look at the knot and be like, okay, yeah, that's correct, or no, that's not correct?
That's a good question. I would take your time, okay? They may present you a knot. I would put that knot in your hand. Don't let them, I put it in your hand, look at it, see how it's tied, flip it over, loosen it up, do whatever you want to do with it. That's your knot. But take your time. That's a good question. I think talking to some guys last year that went through it, some of them let the instructor just hold the knot, look at it good. Now, get the knot, put it in your hand, look at it, see if it's tied correctly. If it's not, he's done right there, or she's done right there. That's a critical failure. And it may not be ropes and knots, but that's a good question. With any of it though, take your time. Take your time. Even if it was ladders, take your time reading through all this. Don't let them rush you. Take your time reading through all this. When you're ready to begin, you can let them know you're ready to begin. And be slow with it. If they're moving too fast for you, say it's the ladders, they're moving too fast, and you want them to slow down, make them slow down. So you're moving too quickly. I'm trying to grade you, you're moving too quickly. Because just remember, that's your student. So, any other questions? Okay, so the next step with this is, and these are just things to keep in the back of your mind. You should be this week receiving, this week or the first next week, you should be receiving an email from OSFM. Has anybody got one yet? Saying your test date is this time and all that? You should be getting an email. They tell us it's 30 days out from the testing date, so we're getting close. Your email is going to let you know, hey, you'll be testing on the 23rd or 24th, and you'll either be in the morning or the afternoon. It's going to take 2 days to run everybody through. So if your duty day is one of these days, you may want to kind of start planning for that. We don't get to make the schedule. If we could, we'd try to plan it out where it wasn't on your shift day. We don't know who they got or what they got until y'all get the email. On that 23rd and 24th, what's going to happen is you'll come in that morning, Cross is going to come in, you'll go to 207 or 208, you'll take a written test. After the written test, you'll stand out here in the hallway, they'll grade it, and then they'll come out and say, okay, you can move on to the practical skills. Or they may say you didn't pass, and you're done. It took last year, with the written test and everybody, I think most people probably average, they were probably every couple hours. Yeah. It moved pretty fast. But you'll have morning or afternoon on those 2 days. After you do your Q-school, do me a favor, because I can't check everybody's, check your transcript. Make sure that it shows up. Now, you're gonna have to give them some time. It may be a couple of weeks. Last time they were pretty quick with it. I think they were doing it as it happened. But check your transcript. If it's not on there, let me know, and I'll do some digging and I'll find out. I'll even try to, once I hear somebody, Dylan got his showing up on his transcript, I'll try to send an email to everybody, say, hey, check your transcript, make sure it's on there. Okay, because that program is so large, and some people drop through the cracks, and I don't want to be one of y'all. I'm constantly going there to pull up people's transcripts. If Dylan's name's in there twice, like he's had your middle name first instead of your first name, he'll have two profiles in there. But I can't pull up either one of those. I've talked with some, they've had 4 or 5 profiles. So make sure you check your transcript. We make sure it gets on there. The upgrades, you won't have to worry about this for a while. Once you're qualified, they usually have upgrades every 5 years, unless something happens. If the standard changes and they feel like they've got to do an upgrade for firefighter 1 and 2, they'll do it then. But make sure you go to those upgrades. We try to get that information out there to you. If you miss an upgrade, you got to go through Q-school again. Okay? We just had 2018 was last year was an upgrade year, so y'all will be good. You know, you probably will have an upgrade in 23, unless something big changes. So make sure you go there. So I don't want you to go to Q-school again. And specialty areas. Is anybody here testing specialty? No? Well, you may be moving on to that later. Specialties, you must hold a certificate for 5 years before you can qualify in that. Say trench, all right? You've got to be a certified trench person before you can qualify in trench. RIT, you got to be RIT certified for 5 years before you can qualify in RIT. Live burn's a little bit different. Anybody here interested in getting live burn? Oh, good. That's awesome. Live burn's a little different. You kind of go to Q-school first and get some burns. You got to get 5 burns. You got to wait 5 years. It's a different animal, but it's still a 5-year period for live burn. And some specialties, like live burn, requires an instructor too.
When we was in the NDOT class a few weeks ago, he got us to sign 2 different rosters of we're instructor too for the proctor side as well as just I guess the Q-school.
Yeah.
Is that going to make our test different that day?
No.
Okay.
So you signed Cross signed 2 rosters. One of the rosters was you're now proctor certified if you didn't know it.
Okay.
Ain't that great? You're proctor certified. So one was you sit through NDOC, at the very end of NDOC you got proctor certified, so it was that one.
Okay.
And the other one was just saying your upgrade was for your instructor too.
Okay.
So, does everybody know why if you even need instructor 2? Instructor 2 is only for those that want to do a specialty. You know, for us here in Greensboro, to sit for the company officer test, you only have to have instructor 1, and you got to be qualified in firefighter 1 and 2, and that's it. Now, if you're looking down the road, Dustin wants to be an EVD qualified teacher, he's got to get his 2. Okay.
But you also have to be instructor too to like get the test, right? Or no, that's changed. That's why I'm instructor too.
That's why you're a proctor now.
Right, okay.
So, and that's a good question. It used to be to give a test, you had to be an instructor 2. Now, a lot of people are proctor certified. Now, Cross can't even give Cross taught ladders for the 2 weeks. Now he's got to call Jeff to come in and proctor that test. It's totally different. That changed in 2019 too.
The reason they're wanting to go that, right now we're all certified ISAC, and to get a pro board, be able to qualify under pro boards, you have to have a 7-person proctor the test, or administer the test. So that's what they're trying to go, the state's trying to go ISAC and pro board.
Okay.
Everybody good? No questions? I'll have to edit this and put it back somewhere. But with this, and I forgot to mention with this, these skills, after you do the grading portion we were talking about, you do that grading portion. then you'll actually do 2 skills, okay? And some of these guys can tell you, you've got to do it OSFM way. You're not testing Greensboro way. Chief Vicker's going to show you, and if you send me an email, I'll send it to you, or you can dig through OSFM's website. But he's going to show you the list of practicals that you might be tested on. Okay?
Majority of the skills are dead on. We're maybe 5 points off here or whatever, but the way, the Greensboro way, the skills are dead on with the exception of the ladder bell. Their ladder bell that they teach is head first, from 35 feet up in the air, all the way down to 0, down to the ground, which we don't deem safe. If in the point you're having to bail out of a second story window, probably are you're stressed, you're fatigued, and we don't recommend going hand over hand, doing a handstand down a ladder. However, OSFM teaches a different method. So to pass that practical, you'll have to go hand over hand, all the way down, head first, all the way down till you hit the ground of the ladder. That's the only one that I'm aware of that is significantly different.
Right. And like Brian was saying, there's a little bit of difference. But these 2 practical sheets I gave you, the ropes and the ladders, there's going to be, he's going to pull it up.
So we're going to go to OSFM. Oops. I want to be very careful what I type in here. Department of Insurance, OSFM. Right here in your home. Oops. Our divisions, we're going to the Fire and Rescue Commission. And then we are going to certifications and training. And then certifications and training, and then qualifications and certification and testing. And that tab is going to have all the stuff that you need there. That's where you've already registered online. This right here is the list of skills. And there's the PDFs of all the skills. Another example of some of the things that may mess you up. This is one on all the May days. May Day, wears all appropriate PPE, comes off track, verbally does his May Day, May Day, May Day, lunar, and after you've successfully untangled yourself or whatever entrapment it is, what do? You have to cancel the May Day for 20 points. So that's on all May Days. Once you successfully rescue yourself, you have to cancel your May Day.
Can we go back to that overall?
Yes, sir.
So all of these, that's the only ones that you can be tested on. You look in OSFM's practical book, there's a lot of them. They've narrowed it down, and it seems like every year they narrow it down even more. I believe there's 22, I can't remember. So you can print that off, put it on your computer, whatever, but those are the only ones you can be tested on. So when you go out there, you may have to grade salvage.
Let's do nozzles. I'm sorry.
From where?
I'm messing you up.
No, go ahead.
This is it had to be the last one. This is a great example of one. So these are some of the questions that they may ask you. Identify what type of nozzle, smoothbore, fog. What is the design of the nozzle? How do you operate it? What is the nozzle pressure? And identify the flow of the nozzle. So that's what kind of practical they would run you through. They'd hand you a nozzle and you'd have to go through those.
So you mentioned that, like, we don't have a 15, 16 inch tip, so we need to make sure that we know all the standard tip sizes.
It's in the practical, you do.
Yes, sir.
That could be a tricky one, and Benny will talk about that here in a little bit.
Yes, sir.
When they say identifies the design of the nozzle, what do they mean exactly with that?
I would imagine, and I'd have to go back through and look at this stuff, how the outline, but I'd imagine the type of the nozzle
Make,
should be the
Akron turbojet nozzle.
design would probably be a fog versus a smooth bore.
So what we type in,
I would say that's
Automatic versus.
Who in here teaches nozzles?
nobody. Yeah. I would say that the type of nozzle that's smooth or fog, and then you get to the design, you'll be talking about Akron turbojet, whatever.
Low pressure, I don't know. Automatic.
Yes, it's that way. There's no critical failures.
There's no critical failures at all.
But if you got the potential of missing it both times for an 80, which is still passing.
Question was asked about the written test. According to their information here, you got to score 80 on the written test. So a big thing to take away from this is make sure you do it OSFM way. I'm good. Thank you. All right, so